Ahoy and welcome back to Designing Album Artwork, the creative process, part 3. Here we are back with the Captain's Beard Completely Tankard, the artwork for their second album. So we're now in Photoshop, just to remind ourselves of where we got to before. Here on the screen is the original sketch that myself and Felix from the band had a look at. So I created a canvas that is the same size as the actual canvas that I'm going to be doing the artwork on. So this is full size 1500 tool by 1000mm wide, 1 meter wide by 1500 tool canvas. That's 72 dpi in Photoshop. What we're going to be doing is creating a life-size trace down image of all the elements that we need. So in order to do that, first off on the first layer here, we've got the original sketch, and after that we did a loose trace image. If I take the sketch off, you'll see what I mean. We took just the basic elements. Just wanted to make sure that we're happy with the composite image. Along here is the crop for the album CD, sort of aspect ratio, if you like, of the CD cover. And then we've got the full poster size, which their band will use for posters. So there's going to be sort of two-in-one artwork, an artwork that serves to be the front cover of the album, but also can be used as a poster. So you can put gig dates in at the top above the crop area here for the CD. So where to start? Right, so I'll tell you, I had to do a little cheat. I have actually put the elements in myself and had a tweak at them. We've got the logo, completely tankard, a mermaid, a pirate ship. Up out of screen there's a Phileas Fogg balloon, which we'll look at in a minute. And down below we've got some little ticked in characters. So if I just reveal the layer that I have done, this is where we're going to get to. And I'll just take off the trace. So these are the elements that I have tweaked in Photoshop that we will need as part of the trace image. So we've got the Captain's Beard logo warped, completely tankard, again warped with perspective and curve, a little ticked in mermaid and a pirate ship. These are all just for reference really. We will be tracing them down, but at full size, who knows, I mean, tweak them on the day, you know. But this is, I think, by far the safest way of doing this artwork. So if I take that image back off and put our trace image back, let's go back to so starting with the logo. So the way we want to start with this logo, the first thing we're going to do is take it into multiply on the logo, on the Photoshop layer system. That just takes the white out of the background. And we want to scale that down to start with, pop that down. I'm just going to rush through this because I'm not going to do it all on camera, but I'll just show you roughly what I did. We went then to edit, transform, perspective, gave it a basic perspective. You can do that with perspective or distort actually. Quite often I use distort, but we're just going to sort of following those perspective lines. Save that or apply that, and from here scaled that back again, and then messed around with the free transform and the warp tool to give the whole thing a little bit more curvature, make it a bit more realistic. You mess around with these settings here, you know, you can tweak this all day long, but we sort of pull in these little handles here. You can see that, yeah, and sort of happy with that. I mean, obviously I'm just rushing through this. If I turn on the other layer, you can see that's the finished item. Basically, as long as I'm happy with that kind of curve going on, that, you know, when we draw this full size, as long as there's a sort of natural curve, that curve quite steep at the top and then getting gradually sort of flattened towards the bottom. So that's how we did that. So that's the logo. Let's pretend that that's done. The next thing we came to was the wording completely tankard. Now if you remember, I drew that lettering, so here's that lettering here. Just going to move that down so you can see it. So obviously I couldn't fit it all on my pad there, but it's all done mathematically. I just drew it out. It's 4 units by 8 in its thing. And as I was drawing this, I realised that the M might have been too wide, so it's 8 characters wide there. So I drew a couple of extra M's, one at 6 characters wide and one at 7. Throw all this together in Photoshop. So completely, and then with the extra M's, and then the word tankard. Cool, and then we pop that back into the artwork here. And we'll just come back to our layers and hey, presto. Take the logo off. So you've got the word completely. There it is. And we whiz that down roughly in position. Roughly in position. There we go. And I'm going to speed through this again. But yeah, I used the 7 character M there. If I zoom in on that in a minute. So it's all a bit kind of crazy, but I think visually that M looks better than the one that was a bit wider. Come back out. And we get the word the tankard. Move that one down. And I pulled this in. Pull it in, pull it in. Let me begin. There we go, roughly like this. And then, it's a combination of this one here, edits, transform. I think I use distort rather than perspective on this one. So I'll do it by hand. Start off with the distort and follow the lines of the perspective, and then mess around with the warp to get a kind of decent natural curve going. And you can mess around with these handles so you can pull them down. Again, this is just as a trace image. When we come to the final artwork, it just helps plot it down, because there's going to be a full painting of seascape and sky, and then we'll have this whole image as a trace paper over the top. We'll lay it down, we'll cover it with chalk or charcoal on the back, and we'll literally trace items down onto the painting, and that way you don't have to do any clever scaling, you've got it all there ready to go. So that's how we achieve the curve lettering complete. And then we do the similar thing with tankard, transform, distort, get a rough distort going or perspective, and then messed around with the warp tool just to get a kind of sense of curvature. I'm not going to complete that there, apply that there. So again, here's one that we did earlier. So we did the Captain's Beard logo, completely tankard, kind of where I want it to be. It's messed around with the lettering here a little bit, but I'm quite happy with that. Let's have a look at the other elements then. So we've got completely tankard and a logo, kind of roughly, right? What else have we got? Pirate ship is just a ship that I found online, and let's go to the mermaid. Let's get her in. Let's put her up on the top layer. The way I created her, and she's literally just a sketch. She first came about by, let me find it. There's a picture online. I did a quick trace of her body, like this. She's going to be holding a cigarette and a bottle of rum, but she sounds probably a bit too sort of loungy there, so flipped her around the other way round, traced her off, and I've given her a large bottle of rum and a cigarette, and she's going around the other way now, and her tail is now, so basically she's just a better shape to fit on the Beard album. We're not entirely sure whether she's definitely going to appear on the final cut of the album, because there's two reasons. One, she might mess around with the perspective. You've got these little folks down the bottom here, a small ship, and then this potentially giant mermaid, which might be fun. So we're just going to scale her down. She just sort of pops in over there somewhere. Again, we're just doing this really quickly. The folks down the bottom here, I'm just going to use source pictures of Lowry, I think, Matchstick Men, and I'll tick them in on the day when we do the actual artwork. And then moving on to this sort of upper part of the poster, up the top corner here, got this kind of crazy idea of using this little Phileas Fogg balloon, and I found this kind of quirky little picture which I'll show you. There it is. Yeah, I thought it might be quite good fun on the poster. Now I know it doesn't really fit with the golden age of piracy, but it might look quite quirky on the actual posters if there's this kind of crazy hot air balloon. Maybe he's using some binoculars and looking at the typography on the page. Lots of ideas. Like I say, at this stage, all we're really interested in is getting things to scale. So going back to here, I am going to print this out at full size, if you can see that. So we have the elements, we have the funny little balloon up in the top corner for the poster. This is the crop for the actual album. I'll make the people up as we go along. This typography is good enough for me to trace. At least it'll give me a starting point, and I think the Captain's Beard logo is pretty on point in terms of its curvature and perspective. We've got a nice tall ship to use as a sort of model for tracing off, and some sort of sense of mermaid. Now I don't know whether she's going to be a pretty lounging mermaid. She's meant to be smoking a fag and drinking a bottle of rum, so I don't know whether she's a young pretty mermaid or some horrendous old wizened sea salty mermaid smoking fags and drinking rum. So anyway, I'm going to leave you there. That's the end of part 3. This is the process now where we're going to go on to painting the actual thing. So I shall say, yeah, see you in part 4. We will get onto some painting. Catch you later.